Hello. Welcome back to Just Be True, a soul led podcast. I'm Summer, and today is a special episode because we are closing out season one. This season has been such a beautiful unfolding because not every topic has been easy, not because every conversation has been light, but because each episode has carried us deeper into what it truly means to return home to ourselves, to release old roles, to soften the survival patterns, to honor grief, to trust the quiet and to choose the calm, and to become grounded and to remember that our intuition is not something we have to chase. And as I look back over this first season, I can feel the thread that has been weaving through every episode. Because this podcast was born from a deep desire to live authentically, to strip away the mask and the expectations and the old stories, and to remember who we truly are beneath all of the roles that we've played, all of the seasons that we've survived, all of the identities we thought we had to become in order to be loved, accepted, safe, or successful. So this season has wrapped all of that up into a beautiful ending. So I say, welcome back to Just Be True, a soul led podcast. Again, I am Summer, and for more than a decade, I've helped hundreds of women navigate deeply transformative life experiences, such as career transitions, grief, healing through major life changes like divorce and loss, and by reconnecting with their inner voice and spiritual wellness, awareness. Through energy healing, meditations, intuitive practices, and spiritual teachings, I support them in realigning with their truth, rebuilding their confidence, and learning to trust themselves in a whole new way. And today, we're wrapping up season one and revisiting how this season has honored our returning home to ourselves. And in so many ways, season one has all been asking the question, who are you when you stop trying to be who you thought you had to be? So, who you are when you're no longer having to hold everything together. Who are you when life gets quiet? When grief changes you? Or when calm begins to feel like home? Who are you when your intuition is no longer something outside of you, but something already moving through you? And maybe the answer is not something we arrive at all at once. Because coming home to yourself is not one dramatic movement of clarity. It can be a series of gentle returns. It can be a breath, a pause, a choice, a moment of honesty, a willingness to stop abandoning yourself in order to keep up with the version of life that no longer fits you. In episode one, we began to release the identity of the fixer and the doer. We explored the tender question, who are you when you no longer need to hold everything together? And for many of us, being the capable one became a survival strategy. We learned to anticipate needs. We managed emotional temperatures in the room. We figured things out. We stay useful and we keep going. And for a while, that identity may have protected us. It may have helped us feel safe, feel needed, helped us belong. But eventually, what once protected us began to limit us. And there comes a time when our soul starts whispering, you don't have to carry all of this anymore. You don't have to prove your value through exhaustion. And you don't have to earn your place to be everything for everyone else. You don't have to earn that. And that can feel extremely unsettling Because if you're not fixing, if you're not doing, if you're not holding it all together, then who are you? And that's the question. It's not a punishment. It's a question you should explore and dive deeper into. It is an opening. It is a beginning to meet yourself beyond the roles that have been put on you, beyond the overfunctioning, beyond the responsibility, beyond the emotional labor, beyond the version of you who learned how to survive by being needed. And what we began to see in this episode is that your worth is never tied to your output. Your value is never dependent on how much you carry. And you are not here to be an infrastructure for everyone else's life. You are here to be living a breathing expression of your own soul. And that is an amazing acknowledgement. Then in episode 2, we moved into what happens after survival mode. So that strange, quiet place where nothing is necessarily wrong, but everything feels different. This is the part of healing and transformation that we don't always talk about. Because when we spent years being on, years responding, managing, pushing through anticipation and performing through strength, calm doesn't always feel peaceful at first. Sometimes calm can feel extremely unfamiliar. Sometimes that stillness feels like something is missing. And sometimes your body doesn't know what to do when there's no crisis to solve. And that does not mean that you are failing or falling apart or off. It simply means that your nervous system is learning something new. It means your identity is loosening its grip on who you had to be so you can begin to discover who you are without bracing. And that space can feel very messy. It's less driven, less urgent, less defined. But that doesn't mean you're lost. It means that you are integrating. It means that your system is reorganizing around safety instead of pressure. And that kind of transition takes gentleness. It takes patience. It takes learning to say, nothing is wrong. I'm not falling apart. I'm learning how to live without bracing. And that can be extremely freeing in a world that can put so much pressure on us externally. So then in episode 3, we talked about grief. We all go through grief in some point in our life. So grief is not only about losing someone we love, but grief can be losing a season, a role, an identity, a version of life that we once understood. Because grief is not only about death, grief is about change. And it's about the ache that comes when something familiar is no longer available the same way. And it's sometimes even the change is aligned. Even when we know something new is forming, there can still be a sadness for what was. And both can be true. You can be grateful for the new chapter and still miss the old one. I mean, I do quite often. And sometimes when you know something is right and still grieve what it cost you. And to be expanding can still feel very tender. This is something I've come to understand deeply in the last year. So when life changes, we don't only move forward, we also have to allow ourselves to honor what we're leaving behind. The structure, the familiarity, the version of ourselves that knew how to operate in the old ways. And sometimes the grief is because we want that life back. Sometimes we grieve the familiar. And there's also a grief in releasing who we once were. The survival, the one who hustled, the one who stayed small and safe to stay safe, the one who held everything together, and the one who never needed help. And because, when we're becoming who we are and we're being asked to release identities that once gave us shape, that kind of release can feel destabilizing, but it is deeply freeing because you're not losing yourself. You are expanding beyond one single role. You meet the version of you that exists outside of being needed, outside of being productive, outside of being required. And that version of you is still worthy and something that you can honor with great pride. Then in episode 4, we explored the quiet seasons. You know, those times when your intuition feels quieter, your clarity feels softer, your connections feel less active, your inner world feels less defined. And for those of us who are on a spiritual or intuitive path, that can feel confusing because we may wonder, am I disconnected? Am I losing something here? Why can't I feel things the way I used to? But those quiet seasons are not a disconnection. Sometimes they're simply a recalibration. Sometimes your energy is adjusting, your awareness is deepening, and your nervous system is stabilizing to hold more. And that quiet is not empty, by no means, is far from it. It is where something sacred is taking shape beneath the surface. It is where your intuition becomes more grounded, more discerned, and it strengthens. Where your gifts become less about intensity and more about embodiment. And that's important because we're not meant to chase spiritual highs forever. We're meant to integrate what has opened. We're meant to become more steady enough to live in what we know. So if you're in a quiet season, maybe nothing's taken from you at all. Maybe something within you is becoming more refined. And maybe the quiet is not the absence of connection. Maybe it's the part where your connection is learning how to become a part of who you are. And that is truly an awakening. Then in episode 5, we talked about the safety of as a spiritual milestone, choosing calm as a sign of growth. This was such an important piece of the season because many people think spiritual growth should always feel expansive, emotional, intense, or dramatic. But sometimes the clearest sign of growth is calm. The moment when you're no longer reaching the same way, when you can stay present, when peace no longer feels like something you have to leave. And for many of us, that calm could feel unfamiliar at first. And we may wonder, is this enough? Am I missing something? Shouldn't I be doing more? Shouldn't I be feeling more? But calm is not just a pause in your growth. Calm can be evidence of it. It is your nervous system learning that it is safe to be here, safe to receive, safe to rest, safe to exist without striving, safe to be connected without the intensity. And this is a huge milestone because true intuitive and spiritual expansion is not only about opening, it's about anchoring what has opened within you. It's about becoming someone who can hold clarity, not just access it. Someone who can remain grounded in their knowing without needing constant confirmation. And someone who can trust peace when it arrives. And it truly changes your whole presence in life all the way around. Sorry. So, episode 6, we move into grounding. Oh, and I love this episode because grounding became more than just a technique. So it became a way of understanding what it means to fully be here. Because in spiritual spaces, there can be this tendency to want to stay elevated, to stay up there, to stay in expansion, to stay in the mystical, the energetic, and the unseen. And there is a beauty in that. There absolutely is. But we're not here to float above the human experience. We are here to bring awareness into the soul, into our body. Grounding is not about becoming less spiritual. It is about becoming more embodied. And I absolutely love this. It's about allowing your intuition, your healing, your awareness, and your connection to move through the lived experience, through your choices, your breath, relationships, your creativity and your work, and your presence. So, grounding reminds us that we do not have to choose between being spiritually connected and fully human. We're meant to be both. And sometimes grounding is simply as noticing it in your body, like taking a breath, stepping outside, sipping some tea, journaling, moving slowly, letting your energy settle back into yourself. Not forcing yourself to be grounded, but returning again and again. And truly, when you can allow yourself to fully embody both the spiritual aspects, your gifts, being grounded, and having it all within, is truly magical, and it changes the way you exist day to day. And then in episode 7, we talked about intuition. You don't have to chase your intuition. And in this episode, it brought so much of the season together because after releasing the fixer, after understanding the survival mode, after honoring grief, trusting the quiet, and choosing the calm, and grounding into our bodies, we arrive at a different relationship with intuition. One that is not based on chasing, not based on proving or forcing clarity or trying to make intuition louder. Instead, intuition became something that we notice, something we create space for, something that is we're already in a relationship with and within us. And I shared that the imagination or the image of intuition as a gentle stream flowing through the landscape of our consciousness. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't force you to follow it. It doesn't compete with the noise. It quietly nourishes the soul of your being. And maybe this part is what makes intuition so sacred. It's not separate from you or somewhere far away. It's already part of the terrain within you. It's already a part of all of this. And that brings us here today, the final episode, episode 8 of season 1, Coming Home to Yourself. Because I never look, when I look back over the season, I can see that every conversation was really an invitation to return to your body, your truth, your softness, your knowing, to your ability to feel, to rest, and the ability to trust yourself again. This is not just a podcast theme for me. This is my life. This is the work that I am living. This is the work that I am building. And in the last year, I left a version of success that I truly understood. For years, success looked like stability, a career, a title, benefits, seniority, a steady income, a system I knew how to move within and move through. And then life shifted. And what I've come to understand is that something the soul begins calling us forward before the mind has proof of. Sometimes our soul knows what we're supposed to be doing, and it starts leading us in that direction. And our mindset, our mental capacity may not have proof of it yet. Sometimes we are guided into a new chapter before every piece makes sense. Sometimes we're asked to trust the next step without being handed the entire roadmap of knowing exactly where the steps are going to lead us or what the end result's going to be. And that's been my journey here with Just Be True. It's not just a business. It's not just a podcast. It's not just a collection of services or offerings. It's a space. A space for women moving through change. A space of people remembering who they are. And a space for those of us who are awakening, healing, and grieving, softening, rebuilding, and learning to trust ourselves in a whole new way. And for more than anything, this is becoming a community. Because one of the things that I know deeply is that we're not here to walk through this transformation in isolation. Yes, the inner work is extremely personal. Yes, there are parts of the journey that no one else can do but you. But we still need safe spaces. We still need reflection. We still need connection. We still need places where we can exhale and say, this is where I am. This is what I'm feeling. And this is what is changing me. And have someone respond with, that makes sense. You're not alone. You're okay, and it's going to be okay. And there is space for you here. This is part of what Just Be True is here to become. Is here to become a place where spiritual growth feels grounded, where intuitive development feels safe, where healing does not mean fixing yourself, where you do not have to perform to be strong, where you do not have to have all the answers. You can be in the middle. You can be in development. You can be in your becoming. This is where you can be held in the process of remembering who you are. And maybe that's a deeper message for season 1. You don't have to force the becoming. You don't have to chase the clarity. You don't have to rush the healing. You don't have to prove the growth. You don't have to hold everything together in order to be worthy of love, support, or belonging. You are allowed to soften. You're allowed to change. You're allowed to grieve what was. And you are allowed to trust the quiet seasons. You are allowed to choose calm. And you are allowed to be grounded and listen inwardly. You are 100% allowed to build a life that feels true to you and your body, not just the impression of the outside. You no longer have to live to fill the expectations of others. So as we close this season, I want to invite you into a moment of reflection. So if it feels comfortable, place one hand on your heart. Take a slow breath in. Exhale. And ask yourself, what part of me has been asking to be released? What role have I outgrown? What season am I still grieving? Where has calm started to enter in my life? Where am I being invited to stop chasing and start listening? Maybe most importantly, what would it look like to come home to myself in this season? It's not a version of you from 5 years ago, the one who had to survive, the one who had to prove themselves, not the version of yourself shaped by everyone else's expectations, but the you that is here right now, the you that is emerging, the you that is learning how to live with more honesty, more softness, more trust, and more alignment. Because becoming home to yourself doesn't mean you become perfect. By no means is there perfection in this. It doesn't mean that you never struggle. It doesn't mean that you always feel clear and confident. But what it does mean, it means you stop leaving yourself when things feel uncertain. You learn to stay present in your own becoming, and you honor the quiet. You listen to the body. You trust the nudges, and you always allow yourself to be supported. And you remember that your truth is not something you have to earn. It is something you return to again and again. So as season 1 comes to a close, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening, for reflecting, and for walking through these conversations with me. Thank you for being willing to explore those tender places, the identity shifts, the grief, the quiet, calm, the grounding, intuition in your own becoming. And if this season has resonated with you, I hope you take time to go back and revisit the episodes that spoke to you most. Sometimes we hear something differently when we are in a new place. Sometimes the same message meets us in a deeper way when we're ready. And maybe this season can be something you return to whenever you need a reminder that you're not behind. You're not broken or disconnected. You're becoming. You're creating who you are meant to be. So season 2 will officially begin on September 3rd. And between now and then, we'll be revisiting and replaying some of the most popular episodes from season 1. So that'll help keep you engaged and connected. So if there was an episode that really spoke to you and one you feel called to hear again for a different reason, a different season in your life, then this will be a beautiful opportunity for you to return to those messages with fresh ears and a new level of awareness. And sometimes we receive differently the second time. A phrase may land deeper, a reflection opens up something new, or a message meets us in a way that maybe we weren't ready for the first time. So I invite you to stay connected during the pause between seasons, revisiting the episodes that supported you the most and allow the messages to continue to unfold in your life. But for now, I want to leave you with this. You do not have to become someone else to live a soul-led life. Open up and become who you truly are. Only thing you're ever asked to do is be true to you. So you can find all of my current offerings, resources, and ways to connect with me in the show notes. Everything is there for you to explore on your own time, in your own way. Only take what resonates with you. You don't need to do it all. You just need to do what feels right. And most importantly, more than anything else, be true to you, and all else will align. Until next time, bye.